your social media feed just filled with images of historical photos and memes reimagined as if they were done by Miyazaki or Studio Ghibli style. It's shockingly good. I mean, it handles text effectively, it does hands fine, and it can show you a glass of wine that's overflowing. Amazing. So that's it, right? The end of art and artists as we know it. Even without opening Reddit, I can hear the seething, the gnashing of teeth, and the biting of elbows. Art is dead, artists are dead, kids will never learn to draw, and we can just pack it in and go back to doing spreadsheets or whatever. But I don't buy it, and here's why. The fear of a soulless machine taking over the artistic realm and taking the bread out of the mouths of every working artist is not new. At any time in human history before about 1850, if you wanted to show someone something that they couldn't see immediately, you had to either take them there or you had to have someone draw a depiction. So illustration, map making, from scientific literature to portraiture, everything was done by hand. Then a machine made out of wood, metal, and glass came along and destroyed the need for representational art. By the time photography has become popular, somewhere in the 1870s or 80s, the need for documentary artists has basically evaporated. Scientists, instead of taking detailed notes with illustrations, just took pictures. Photography was a nuclear bomb that went off in the art world and reshuffled the entire industry. For the Reddit artists out there who are lamenting the end of art, let me give you a quote. In 1859, Charles Baudelaire said this about photography: "It is the refuge of every would-be painter too lazy to complete his studies." Sounds familiar. But of course, the death of the artist of the 1880s never happened. Besides just opening the market for photographers, the demand for visual arts exploded as it became popular and easy and cheap to produce in things like magazines and newspapers. So layout artists, designers, product designers, illustrators, and regular, honest-to-God painters became in a much higher demand because visual art became popular and accessible to a much wider audience. I think the big confusion here is that a lot of people think of artists and the work of art as the physical rendering of images, and I don't think that's quite accurate. The real job of an artist at any time in history isn't to render pretty images, but to capture the zeitgeist. It's to observe, digest, and synthesize a response to whatever the modern world is at the time that's modern for you. It's very likely that when you think of any previous period in history, the first thing that comes to mind when you imagine it is art. The artists working at any time in history captured a sort of essence. They observed and digested the world and then gave it a label. In other words, it captured the zeitgeist. So I think it's very telling that at the present moment, the flood of images that we see on every social media platform is not make a cartoon version of my selfie. It's Ghibli style, or Simpson styles, or Rick and Morty style. This is the thing about the style and the intention of the artist. You hold up a prism that breaks reality in a certain particular way that expresses something beyond just representation. Style, brand, whatever you call it, it takes years to put together through iterative process of looking at the world and reinterpreting it with your own hands. The corpus of the artist's work creates a vision of reality. Far from becoming irrelevant, they're going to continue to reinterpret the world and show an impression of it. In fact, that's exactly what happened after the popularization of photography. Impressionism came out of the idea that you don't have to depict objective reality anymore. You can express a deeper, more meaningful, personal connection to the world. And that is what most people think of when they think of the great artists. It's a particular kind of vision. Once, as an artist, you establish a particular vision, the idea that other people can reproduce this style for themselves because they want to see the world through this lens isn't bad for you. It's great. A single artist is limited in the amount of work that they can produce over a lifetime. But imagine using the power of networks to spread your vision, your interpretation of the world to a massive audience without having to do much. I think there's never been a better time to say that imitation is the highest form of flattery than in the age of AI. So no, artists are not going away. But the nature of industry in terms of visual design is going to shift. You see, the big concern is that it takes years to get good at art, and it takes hours to create individual pieces. But all of that is now available if you have $20 plus tax a month and a little bit of time to prompt the machine. Terrible, right? But here's the thing, AI can't come up with a brand new style, especially not one that's meaning-driven. AI as far as I can tell so far, and very likely for a long time, cannot meaningfully interpret zeitgeist. It takes years to get good, and by good I don't mean to give an apt rendition of what you see or even of another artist's style. What I mean is to develop a style of your own that is pretty or ugly or whatever in a way that resonates, in a way that actually moves someone who observes it and gives them a sense that they have experienced something beyond just looking at a picture. Developing your own compelling style still takes years of work and refinement. And here's the catch. Because the internet is about to be inundated with competently rendered images that imitate one style or another, being actually original, the thing that most artists try to be, becomes much more valuable. If 1 million marketing monkeys are typing at 1 million marketing computers and able to spit out fine, okay, good-looking images of product or ads or whatever it is that they're trying to promote, being distinct in a sea of imitation becomes much more valuable. True innovation as an artist will become massive leverage, bigger than it is now. In a sea of disposable slop, a truly original vision will become like gold. So marketing, advertising, and the like, standing out from a sea of slop is the key to the castle. This is how you actually get attention and direct it in the direction that you want, which means big bucks. So if you were an artist 2 days ago who was 8 years into developing your own style, nothing really changed. If anything, the work that you've already put in is probably more valuable now. If by artist what you mean is you make lewd furry commissions for 50 bucks a pop, you're probably going to have a bad time. Except that if you've managed to develop the meta skills that are associated with art, you're still ahead of the game. You see, in a sea of slop generated by people who are not trained aesthetically, your ability to judge work, to select and curate, becomes much more valuable as well. The internet is flooded with AI-generated slop. The pieces that are actually outstanding, whether AI-generated or not, are going to count for so much more. They're going to be highly valuable. And your ability to understand what makes an image good gives you a massive leverage in order to succeed in the market. Even if the only way that you got good is by drawing horny squirrels, you can still probably parlay that into a lucrative business or job. It's about using the whatever medium you have in front of you to connect. And that is an immense magical power that no machine can imitate. At least not for a while.